Hello and welcome to Inside Edition to discuss national, regional and international issues in depth. Our main focus today will be the recently published annual report of the National Institute for Human Rights. We will be discussing the matter with Commissioner and Head of Complaints Monitoring and Complaints Committee at the National Institute for Human Rights, Márيا Khórي. But first, this report for more.
Throughout the previous years, the Kingdom of Bahrain experienced major changes towards fostering democracy, entrenching the foundations of the state of law, and building an integrated legislative and legal system, actual practices, and public institutions to promote human rights. These changes constitute fundamental transformations aimed at promoting human rights and public freedoms and ensure people's enjoyment of these rights. The establishment of the National Institution for Human Rights, the NIHR, is one of the remarkable achievements of Bahrain's comprehensive reform march. The tasks of the NIHR focus on the promotion, development, and protection of human rights, in addition to striving to consolidate the relevant values and awareness of such values, and ensuring that these values are practiced freely and independently, in line with the Paris Principles, endorsed by the General Assembly of the United Nations in its Resolution number 48134 for the year 1993, which formed the legal reference in the establishment of the institution as a set of internationally recognized principles concerning the formation of national institutions for human rights, the powers entrusted to them, and the procedures governing their work. The NIHR is made up of 11 members, including the chairperson, vice-chairperson, and personalities reputed for their competence and integrity, selected from advisory bodies, academic and civil society organizations, trade unions, social, economic, and professional organizations, and personalities interested in human rights issues. The issuance of Decree 20 for 2016, amending some of the provisions of Law 26 for 2040 regarding establishment of the National Institution for Human Rights activities and jurists reflect the leadership's keen interest to safeguard individual rights. The recent amendments make the NIHR a role model across the Gulf and the Arab world, with wider powers and clear legal responsibilities to perform its role and duties. They ensure the NIHR's independent and transparent work in dealing with the legislative branch. The National Institution for Human Rights gains great support by the Kingdom's leadership, as the Kingdom continually makes effort to improve its law and ensures the human rights are protected.
Yes. Okay, Ms. Márيا Khórي is with us now in the studio. Thank you for being with us and for taking time out of your busy schedule. Let's get straight to the point. When we look at the situation in the Kingdom, the human rights situation compared to previous years, how do you value it right now?
Thank you, Sarah. Value is a very important question. Progress is an ongoing process, whether it's in human rights or any other aspect. Value on the importance of human rights is not a new concept in Bahrain, because ever since His Majesty King Hamad ascended to the throne in 1999, Bahrain has experienced major changes. These changes also have touched on the development towards promoting and raising awareness of human rights. We in Bahrain, we're always known. We never stand still. We interact, we observe, we lead, we solve, we suggest. We're always progressing towards better standards in this area of human rights. Human rights is multi and vast and has many aspects. If I want to say human rights is one aspect, I'll be denying facts, because human rights, we value it in the areas of education, rights of the disabled, equality, housing, health, rights of prisoners and detainees, freedom of expression and speech. It's a wide framework.
Yes.
So we're progressing in the right place.
Yes. Part of the progress that the human rights situation in Bahrain has come to is due to the awareness that is spread through the delegates from your institution as well as international institutes that come to Bahrain. What are the procedures taken by the National Institute for Human Rights to spread the awareness of its role on the local level?
Okay. It's a very important question because it sheds light on the essence of the National Institute of Human Rights. First of all, there are 3 committees within the National Institute of Human Rights. They work members of these committees work alongside the chairman and the vice chairman to promote and raise awareness of human rights in Bahrain along the staff of the General Secretariat. We need to work to fulfill our mandate. I want to shed, if I have time, light on the 3 committees. We have a political and civil rights committee, and it has 3 members. We have an economic, social, and cultural rights committee, and also has 3 members. The closest to my heart is the one that I head, and that is the complaints follow-up and monitoring committee. The law and the decree of the National Institute of Human Rights gave us a mandate and a tool to raise awareness within human rights. Let me take the political, civil, and the economic and social. What do they do? Okay, they study legislation. When they study legislation, for example, let's say that they studied legislation so that there were shortcomings in the criminal law, or that there are shortcomings in a health law. They study it, they suggest amendments, and it goes through the process, through Parliament, through Shura, and then to Cabinet to be passed, and then to His Majesty the King. Yes. Now, where do we come as a National Institute of Human Rights Complaints Committee in to raise the awareness? For example, I had a very live example just 2 weeks ago. We had a father, without naming, of course, anyone. We had a father that has a child with severe autism. And the child is now into a young man. He's 17 or approaching 18. He has no place to take him. Both parents work. So he approached us as a National Institute of Human Rights. There is no violation of human rights there, but there is, as you say, there's a shortcoming in the services provided. I, in my role as a complaints committee, send this to the appropriate committee, which is the Social and Cultural Rights Committee, to study, as they say, the legislation to add this to their thing. Of course, this was on the macro level. On the micro level, I cannot stop talking. We have MOUs, memorandums of understanding, with almost every entity in Bahrain, whether it's a ministry or a national mechanism for prevention of human rights violations. We have with the judiciary system, with the Ombudsman's office, with the Special Investigation Unit, with the Public Prosecutor's office. We are active participants in all public awareness campaigns. For example, let's say it's Women's Day or Human Rights Day. We hold events to raise awareness. The Committee for Complaints has, in the next 3 quarters coming up, a very strong campaign to promote the work of the committee, so that we give exposure to people that don't know about us, in order to come and talk to us about their allegations or their violations of human rights. We work with this police academy. We work with the University of Bahrain School of Law. We train new judges to have a human rights-based approach. All this is campaigning to raise awareness. I want to promote an event that we had in early December, and we're repeating it in Souk El Basta in 2 weeks, where we're promoting a coloring book for children that will raise awareness of human rights.
Beautiful. You touched on the subject a little bit about the people that basically come to approach you in order to get help from your organization. But can you elaborate a little bit more? Who are the people that are actually validly come and approach you and will get help because their situation needs it from the institution?
The National Institute of Human Rights is open to anyone in Bahrain. It's not restricted to a resident, a national, or a laborer, or whatever. Our doors are open.
Yes.
Who comes? Whoever feels that their right has been violated, whether in health, whether in prison, in education, in housing. Now, our mandate and our law allows us to accept complaints and requests for assistance from if the violation or the allegation of violation has been, God forbid, performed by any government entity or an entity that represents the government. For example, I cannot deal with someone that Bahraini who feels that his right has been violated in a foreign country. No. Okay. That he has to go through the proper channels with that, through the proper ministry. Anything that happens within the grounds of Bahrain or representing Bahrain, we deal with.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
The National Institute for Human Rights was a big part of the recent campaign against basically workplace, let's say, ethics, people that feel that they have been violated by their workplace and everything. A lot of them actually went to the Human Rights, National Human Rights Organization in order to get help in getting either their salaries back or better working times. How do you guys fit in working with private institutions, not just public?
Okay, as I said previously in the previous comment, that we are by our law, we are mandated to deal with anyone representing the government. Now, there is an entity in the government of Bahrain that deals with the private sector, and that is the Ministry of Labor.
Yes.
Now, what we do is we facilitate. That we don't turn anyone back.
Yes.
Anyone that comes in with this request, what we say is we consider it a request for assistance. We study the case and we tell them where to properly go. And we do provide I don't want to say pro bono, but we do provide some kind of legal assistance to them and advice. But we're not authorized by our mandate to deal with any complaints against the private sector.
Great, perfect. Now, since the establishment in 2014, how do you see the progress of the National Institute for Human Rights until now?
Okay, I may just, if you allow me just to say that we've been established since 2010.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, there were several boards since 2010. Our first report, this is our fourth report, by the way.
Yes.
So maybe that's why a little bit of the confusion on when we were established. Progress is excellent. Why do I say excellent? And you might ask me, how do I assess the excellence? Because reaction to our reports. Okay. Today I sit before you and we have our 2016 report available to the public and on the website. Reaction to our reports from within Bahrain and regionally and internationally is positive. Sometimes it's critical, and we welcome that because it pushes us to strive for a better accountability and better transparency. Positive in a sense, Sarah, is that there are no restrictions on what to include in the report. Yeah. The NIHR law stipulates that we exist independently, hence we work transparently with accountability and responsibility. One of the measures, and that is my area of expertise for measuring success, is the number of complaints that we receive. That's an excellent measure of success. If I may put on record, yes, that in 2013 we received 72 complaints. In 2014 we received 91 complaints. In 15, 67 complaints. We dropped. In 2016, 137 complaints. It doubled. Now, someone, a reader or an observer might say, come and say, Maria, Sarah, come on, it doubled. What is going on?
People know about it.
Exactly. Thank you very much. People know about it. Not only know about it, we've done a good job of awareness. That means, second of all, we've gained trust.
Yes, and I think a lot of people don't understand is one of the main ways of promoting an organization like the National Institute for Human Rights is word of mouth. People have successfully had their problems dealt with at the NIHR, and then they speak it on and they say, no, these people actually do help us. Do you agree on that point?
Absolutely, I agree. And word of mouth, trust, compassion. Sometimes, people just want someone to listen to them.
Yes.
We receive several calls from people that are detained, expatriate workers. Yes. And we work closely with an NGO in Bahrain that deals with the expatriate issues and the community. Sometimes they, believe it or not, sometimes it's just 15 or 20 dinars that will solve their problem and will get them back home to their families, because they're in violation of something. So word of mouth is critical.
Great, perfect. What are the main types of complaints that are accepted by the National Institute for Human Rights, and who is usually entitled to complain in that matter? We talked about it before, but more elaborately pertaining to your report this year.
Okay. Anyone in Bahrain is entitled to come and complain. Now, whether it's a complaint or an allegation of a violation of human rights, that's something else. That's to the skills of our staff and my committee. By the way, I have a psychiatrist on the committee and a health professional as well on the committee. So it sort of gives you an indication of sometimes of what kind of complaints that we do. We do get a lot of health complaints.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, anyone who's resident in Bahrain or a Bahraini or non-Bahraini is entitled to come and complain. The complaints span many aspects. Complaints regarding physical and emotional safety, complaints from health, regarding healthcare, and that comes usually from within, behind, in the detention centers or prisons. Not that healthcare is denied, absolutely, it's not denied, it takes time.
Yes.
It takes time. The health services in the rehab centers takes time to deal with. The system is in the process of being improved. Anyone who feels that they were not subject to a fair trial is allowed to come and submit a complaint. Someone who feels that their rights have been denied in proper housing, environment, education, equality. Sometimes we get promotion complaints. So, so it spans a lot of. And if you take, as they say, the two covenants, covenants of human rights, everything spans out of that. Yeah.
Is there a case like that you yourself would say, okay, this really affected me, and here is where I thought we have to change something?
Every day, every day. And I've been head of the complaints committee since April 2015. I hope that I've changed people's lives through my work in NIHR as much as they've changed my lives. Sometimes I feel, I mean, I don't want to talk personal, but sometimes I feel that if I make someone sleep better at night, one person, that I've achieved something. Our relationship with my dear colleagues at the Ministry of Interior is superb. Yes. We used to deal with them very officially through letters, and there is a liaison officer that we deal with. Now I'm on telephone basis with them, and that is when I decided that some issues need the human interaction between me and my counterpart. Yes. And I say it's exceptional. My relationship with them is exceptional within the laws and the regulations of the bylaws of the Ministry of Interior is exceptional because they themselves go and investigate and interview and find out what the situation is. Usually the violations that happen is not intentional. There's nothing systematic. I say it, there's nothing absolutely systematic. Sometimes it comes because of ignorance from the people that are in the front line of dealing. Something very, very simple. We had someone whose brother is serving a term in prison, and his children are not in Bahrain. He's married to a non-Bahraini, and the children are with their mother outside Bahrain. So she gets pictures or photos in for her brother to see them. Because of ignorance of some of the regulations and laws, the officer in charge of letting the pictures in with the sister so that the brother can see them said, no pictures allowed.
That's not.
And it's pictures of infants and children. So one phone call, and they say, oh, why is that happening? Who told them? And it gets, so if I was dealing with a letter, the visitation time is finished.
Yes, yes.
And you, I'm sure you appreciate the essence of time for a visitation to someone who's detained.
Of course, so yes, of course. Now, Bahrain in the last years has always shown, especially when it comes to human rights ethics, international institutions have come here. They have seen how people are treated, whether they are in prison, whether they're laborers, whether they're just numerous citizens, whether they are residents. What is your relation with international human rights organizations? How does the National Institute for Human Rights deal with international human rights organizations?
We deal with them transparently and professionally. as a National Institute of Human Rights, طبعا we are part of a system as well. Not only a local system, there's a regional system. We are part of the Arab networks for human rights. We deal directly with other National Institutes of Human Rights in the GCC. There is one in Oman and there is one in Qatar. There are other committees in other GCC countries and we deal with them. This is on a regional level. On an international level, طبعا, there was something called the International Coordinating Committee, the ICC, not to be confused with the International Court of Criminal Justice, but they changed their name recently to GUNRI, which is the Global Alliance for National Institutes of Human Rights. We are part of that. We attend conferences and events that are related to these organizations. We use these events to promote human rights in Bahrain, to educate ourselves, to ask advisors and consultants to come to Bahrain and train, whether it's NIHR staff or NGOs or anyone who's interested in the human rights field. We are also part of the Asia Pacific Forum, which is, the Asian part of, everything is divided into regions. So we have training with them. Right now, we are considering terms of reference with them to assess our work.
Yes.
Not our performance, but our capabilities.
Yes.
Capacity assessment is very important.
Yes.
So we are part of that system.
Yeah, because
as well.
basically when it comes to human rights, it's not just what you, as you said, not just how you perform, but how you are able to perform or what you're able to perform. I mean, my next question to you is there something specific that you basically bring out to the international community where you teach or where you educate them on, let's say, the cultures or how things are dealt with in the region due to the cultural differences with the outside?
Not so much as the cultural differences, but as much as, let me talk about our participation in the last 2 Human Rights Council sessions in Geneva. In 2015, we conducted a side event during the Human Rights Council. Of course, it happens 3 times a year. In September of every year, we're making it a habit now and a routine to hold an event. It's called the side event. What is a side event? It's a side of the event that is happening in Geneva. In 2015, we held a side event on complaints that are received by the National Institute of Human Rights. I was part of the panel, and so was the Vice Chairman, Mr. Abdullah Al-Drazi, that we use it as something to pass on our experience. Now, I might stop here and say, and it's something very important, not only for the National Institute in Bahrain, but for Bahrain as well. I said we lead in Bahrain. We are the first country, the first National Institute, hence the first country with the National Institute of Human Rights that is online with receiving complaints. If you go to App Store or Android now and put NIHR Bahrain, you'll see that from anywhere in the world, you can download the app and file a complaint. You don't have to come to me in person, to the National Institute, and file a complaint. So we've passed on this experience.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So in answer to your question, this is how we promote our experience and our advancement.
Yes.
Also in 2016, we held another side event in Geneva, and that is to promote health and education rights. Health services in Bahrain are among the first and the pioneering in the region, and not many people knew that.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, not many people knew that.
True. And as you said already, there are some issues that are happening right now to broaden the healthcare system and get more patients to come, or basically more space for patients to come, because healthcare is very important to every society. Now, coming back to the report, this report is very important, and we saw the reaction of His Majesty the King. So can you tell us about presenting it when you guys presented it to His Majesty?
Of course, it's always an honor to be in the audience of His Majesty the King. We're always glad to hear his guidelines. He always gives us, I've had the honor of, being part of submitting the 2013, 14, 15, and 16 to His Majesty. He always, in one of the meetings, he said, "Is that all you guys have to say?" So that gives you an indication of where the freedom of expression is in our reports. We're always keen to listen to his directives. And as he always says, give us what makes us perform better.
Yeah.
In addition, we also submit the report to His Highness the Prime Minister, and we were privileged to do that yesterday as well.
Oh,
so, and you know, and the Crown Prince, inshallah, will follow, and other senior.
Is the NIHR within the vision of His Majesty the King? Are they up to date with the vision that he has for the future of the country?
No doubt. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in existence.
Yes.
You know that there are many other national mechanisms, prevention mechanisms in Bahrain. The Ombudsman, the Special Investigation Unit, PDRC, in which I'm a member of, which is the Prisoner Detainees Rights Commission. NIHR was the first to be established before any of these.
Yes.
So we are in his vision, and in fact, if I may retrieve and say that during the audience he says, I don't see anyone like you in other countries as a National Institute of Human Rights. There are maybe, but His Majesty receives us, and that is just shows the level of commitment the leadership has to the National Institute of Human Rights.
And also the confidence in the NIHR.
Inshallah.
We are going to, for further discussion, we're going to turn to the member of the European Parliament, for the member of the European Parliament for the Yorkshire and the Humber region for the Conservative Party, Amjad Bashir. Hello, Mr. Bashir. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, good morning, and thank you very much for inviting me.
Mr. Bashir, I'm going to get straight to it. I wanted to ask you, compared to the previous years, how do you value the current human rights situation in the kingdom?
I think there's been a big improvement. I recently visited your country. I visited the various bodies that have been set up to monitor even the police and cameras, CCTV cameras within prisons is also being monitored. I think in the road of democracy, you've come a long way. You've come a long way, and I think there is no simple democracy that fits throughout the world. Everybody is in a different stage of progression towards democracy. What your king has done has been enlightened. Previous to the Arab Spring and the Arab Uprising, he initiated reforms, and those reforms are ongoing. I think this is wonderful, and I think that whilst not being complacent, I think Bahrain is well on its way to becoming more and more compliant with human rights, and I applaud their efforts.
Thank you. How would you compare the human rights situation in Bahrain to other countries?
Well, I'm very fortunate to be on the Human Rights Committee of the European Parliament. After 10 months, I managed to get a resolution passed on the Rohingyas. As you know, they're a stateless people. They make up nearly half the stateless people of the world. The situation in Myanmar is dire. These people have no passports, no papers. They have no access to jobs. Their children cannot go to school. They're confined to certain areas, and all sorts of torture and abuse take place. So I'm very critical of the situation throughout the world. In Kashmir, for example, for the last 7 months, there has been an uprising against the Kashmiri, against the Indian occupation. 200 people have died, hundreds of people are blinded and injured. So the situation in the world is quite dire. I think that Bahrain is a continuing progress situation. I'm very emboldened to hear the steps that have been taken to improve the situation further and make it more of a democracy, representative democracy. And really, I'm quite pleased that this sort of reform should take place in places like Myanmar and Indian-occupied Kashmir.
These are some very extreme situations, as you said. How about the local situations in the areas around Bahrain, like in the north and the south of the Arabian Peninsula?
Well, the situation is quite worrying. If you look in Iraq, if you look in Syria, if you look in Yemen, there has been a great deal of interference from outside nations and outside interests. I believe that nations, because there was a vacuum created in Iraq following the invasion in 2003, all sorts of different interests and extremists have stepped into the breach, and outsiders have taken advantage of this in order to get into power people that they feel are going to be sympathetic to their cause. And the same has happened in Syria. In Syria now, it's not just regional powers like Iran, for example, but also Hezbollah. But you've got also Russia, you've got America, you've got all the nations around the world in there. If countries like Yemen, etc., if the actual elected democratic governments are supported against extremists, and if countries are allowed to become more stronger, if the nation and its forces, then you can bring about a situation where the country can prosper and extremism and militancy can be eliminated.
Thank you very much. Also, I want to ask you, how is Bahrain's cooperation with the UK in regards to reinforcing the principles of human rights?
Well, I represent Yorkshire in Great Britain. We have a long history with Bahrain, 200 years. We're celebrating this year 200 years of cooperation with Bahrain. We believe that Bahrain is as a shining example of progress, and we want to help Bahrain in whatever way we can to assist Bahrain to greater and greater prosperity and greater cooperation, not only with the UK but the rest of the world. So we are quite encouraged by progress of Bahrain, and we want to be part of that friendship group with Bahrain.
Great, great. Mr. Bashir, is there anything that you would like to add before we let you go?
No, I think I've said that all that has to be said in my view. That your king is quite very enlightened, very brave. He's made moves prior to uprisings, and he's trying to make reforms. And I think all of us should get behind these reforms and bring about greater democracy, which more than 50% of sure is elected, and more people, ordinary people are taking part in running your country.
Thank you very much, Mr. Amjad Bashir, for your insight and for joining us. And that was a member of the European Parliament for the Yorkshire and the Humber region for the Conservative Party, Mr. Amjad Bashir. Coming back to you, Ms. Khoury, is there anything that you'd like to comment on what Mr. Bashir had to say?
Well, I would like to thank him first and foremost by trusting the process of reform, endorsing it, wishing us more, and that is something that we should compliment every leadership in Bahrain and citizen that is committed to reform and progress. I would like to say, when you asked him about the cooperation of the United Kingdom in enhancing human rights in Bahrain, in my other hat as the Prisoner and Detainees Inspection Commission, we were fully trained as members by Her Majesty's Prison Inspectorate. So we have a commitment from the government of the UK as well on promoting, enhancing and making human rights in par with international standards. Yeah. So the cooperation is there, and will inshallah go even more further.
Yeah. Now, we talked about the things that face Bahrain locally. Mr. Amjad also elaborated a little bit about the human rights situation that is surrounding Bahrain and the Arabian Peninsula. But also part of the things that the NIHR deals with is misleading information. And dealing with misleading information is a must. Can you tell us more about the institution's reactions towards incorrect information about Bahrain's human rights situation in particular, which is published on foreign media?
Of course, and without any doubt, our role as citizens, our role as commissioners in the National Institute of Human Rights, is to publicly speak honestly and truthfully about Bahrain. That goes before being a member of NIHR. I believe every citizen should be an honest ambassador to Bahrain. But as NIHR, and I'll speak specifically, we are approached by many international organizations with situations of false allegations. Our role in NIHR is very important. We take our national responsibility very, very seriously. We verify the situation. We verify the truth, we investigate the allegations without any compromise of human rights, and we make the truth public. We do that whether through one-on-one correspondence with these organizations or through our participation, as I said, whether in the Human Rights Councils or in other forums, the Asia Pacific Forum, the Arab Network. We issue statements always verifying the truth if the allegation came to us directly.
Yes. Ms. Khoury, one of the things that is happening soon in Bahrain, and because of the trust in Bahrain's leadership and also in the society around it, the Arab Court for Human Rights will be based in Bahrain. It will probe allegations of torture, discrimination, and other violations that are lodged by Arab citizens. How can such initiatives contribute to the efforts of preserving human rights in all Arab countries?
And this is the vision of His Majesty the King. He had a grand initiative to find and establish and set up the Arab Court of Human Rights in Bahrain. This initiative of His Majesty comes as a critical and important support to regional Arab system of protecting human rights in Bahrain. This initiative came to complement, and in answer to your question, is to complement the role of the Arab Charter, the initial Arab Charter for Human Rights, to which Bahrain was one of the first countries to ratify it.
Yes.
And also the Arab Court comes as a proper mechanism to protect and preserve the rights and the freedoms of the Arab citizens. Having said that, the Arab Court for Human Rights, it will have a judiciary role and it will have an advisory role.
Yes.
That's very important. It will be a vital guarantee and an important one to respect and facilitate the human rights work in the region, and also on a legislative level and on a judiciary level. But it's very important to say that the court will not replace the national judiciary systems. This is one thing, and this is another thing. On the contrary, it will be an additional tool, but it will not replace it. It will be an additional tool for those countries that join and endorse to help them in the process. The court will not, of course, interfere in the internal affairs or the sovereignty of any country.
Yes.
And the court will also be a model for transformation. And we're hoping that other countries will sign the statute law for this courts, because it will be an added value to all countries.
A lot of people might look at it in different ways, but basically this is a helpful thing for the people of the Arab countries. This is to help them to get their rights out, not to basically emphasize mistakes that have happened.
Absolutely not.
Yes.
As I said, it will be an added tool.
Yes. Before we were almost at the end of our show, but I'd really like to ask you, what are the future plans prepared by the NIHR amid challenges of the local and international developments?
Challenges is the name of the game, I guess. You know, without challenges, we will not perform and we will not achieve a report. I tell you honestly and very simply, we plan to continue to promote our strategy of promoting and raising awareness, with no boredom whatsoever. We would plan to continue to comment candidly on any issue related to human rights and to deal with any cases of human rights as we deem necessary.
Perfect. Ms. Khoury, would you like to add anything, and can you also again tell us the next event that you have upcoming?
Thank you very much, first of all, for this opportunity. I would like to say that both our reports for 2015 and 2016 are available on our website, www.nihr.org.bh, available in Arabic and English for download and printing. Our next important event that is coming up is, as I said, in Souk al-Basta, which is in the BIC, and that we will be promoting a coloring book for children that promotes and raises awareness on human rights. And then beginning February, myself and the members of the Complaints Committee will be having an educational campaign, an awareness campaign in clubs and schools as an outreach program to promote human rights.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sarah.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mariya Khoury, the Commissioner and Head of Complaints Monitoring and Complaints Committee at the National Institute for Human Rights. And thank you for being with us today. We would also like to thank you for watching us and see you next week in another episode of Inside Edition.